Hi guys, welcome to episode 6 of Forests and Freedom. Start sharing the live stream now if you can and get it out there. Start getting your questions in nice and early so we can make sure we get this wrapped up pretty quick. We want to do it within an hour. Obviously, guys, you should know Carly Murphy. I'm Tim. And with us tonight, I'm very excited to have Topher Field, who's going to be the brains of the outfit. So
You're
for
really
those of you who
bottom
don't
of the
know
barrel
Topher,
there, Tim.
Yeah.
well, do the best we can. So for you guys that don't know Topher, Topher's been a political commentator for about 16 years. Is that right, Topher?
Yeah, since 2009.
Yep. So back when to watch YouTube, you had to have this thing called a modem. This is ancient device that you used to get onto the internet.
It screamed in pain every time you turned it on. Just that
Yeah.
down the line. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you say that, but you're really correct, because when I released my first video, well, actually, it was my second video in 2010, which was to do with the north-south pipeline, a water pipeline in Victoria. There was someone by the name of Jan Beer who would burn the video onto DVDs and hand deliver them into people's letterboxes because the internet was not fast enough.
Yeah, I read that in your book.
Yeah.
She's from out our way too.
Yeah.
So Topher's authored 2 books, Good People Break Bad Laws, which I've got here behind me. And because I'm not a good Christian, I do not have Good Christians Break Bad Laws. But that's another one.
I prepared earlier.
Here we go. Very good. Also, the director of the multi-award winning documentary Battleground Melbourne, which
amazing movie.
Which, guys, if you haven't seen it, go see it. You can watch that for free. I think, is it still battlegroundmelbourne.com?
Battlegroundmelbourne.com, and I'm going to keep it there for free for people to watch for as long as I have breath and access to that URL.
Yep, and it's a great watch.
I bawled.
And that's actually how I got to know Topher, was through that. I followed him all around the state trying to help him out, and he was running around the state trying to get away from me.
I was trying to shake the tail, and I just couldn't do it.
I'm a hard one to shake, mate. I've got no friends, so.
Well, I can't help but notice. Hang on. Let me get myself in the frame here. You start out following me, and now you're copying my hairstyle.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Sorry.
And he's got himself a Carly.
Yeah, you're doing You've got my hair. You're doing a podcast with a Carly. Yep. And here's the thing. I want to know in the comments, viewers, does Tim look like the love child of me and Matt Walsh? Like, you take my ugly looks and my hairstyle and you put Matt Walsh's beard on it. I reckon you get Tim.
I feel like I'm a bit of a DEI hire now.
Oh, sorry. Tim and I are just going to have a bit of a love fest over here. Carly, you can just relax for the next hour.
I'm just here for it because my name's Carly.
There's this old-fashioned thing about women being seen, and anyway, we won't go there.
I'm within punching distance.
Tim, this is why you have to do your podcasts remotely. They can't punch you in the shoulder through the computer, okay?
Absolutely. I think you might be onto something. Topher, thanks heaps for joining us tonight. We really appreciate you making the time for us, for our little group, our little podcast. We can't express how much we appreciate the effort you put into the whole movement to this country. I think with that. Oh, look, guys, the other thing I'll quickly say, Topher has a course which is called, Carly's about to do it,
Getting your head in the game.
Getting your head in the game masterclass, and I'm going to do it.
So if you want to be someone who's making a real difference in this country and not just voting at election time, but doing a bit more, maybe do that course and get some good pointers.
Can I make a comment on that? This isn't just about doing more in the big picture sense. It's not just about, g'day, Brad. Nice to have you along. It's not just about those who want to be activists and so forth. It's really about people that just want to have a bit more agency and a bit more intention in your own life. So the first thing I talk about is focus. because there are so many things that are trying to drag our focus away to unproductive areas. And with it can go our optimism, and with it can go so many other things when we allow our focus to go where it shouldn't go. The second week is on hope, or the second, it's all in one. It's instant access now, but I did it as a weekly thing. The second session is on hope. And hope is a really dangerous thing, but also a really powerful thing. And so you need to be aware of your own hope, and you need to be aware of how other people can sometimes try and use hope to string you along and get you involved in what they're doing for their own purposes. So hope is a really powerful one. G'day, David. And Mr. Molesworth. Hello.
Dr. Molesworth.
That is Dusty Rose.
Dusty, right. I see. Dr. Molesworth. Then I cover courage. Courage is a huge one. Why did some people stand up during COVID? Why didn't they? Even what you guys are doing and really tackling this recreational parks and access to Australia issue, it takes a certain amount of courage. What is courage? You know, why do some people have it in one area and not in others? Why do some people have it and others don't? And so I dived into it during COVID. Yeah, I've got a philosophy on that, and so far it's holding up pretty well. It's proving to be, I think, quite accurate. And the whole course is designed to be actionable. It's not just about headspace stuff. It's about learn the headspace stuff, understand how some of these moving parts work, and then understand what to do with that and how to then use that to make your life better and make the lives of others around you. I talk about faith, not religious faith specifically, but faith in yourself, faith in your fellow man. Hey, Sarah. Faith in each other, faith in the future. And then I talk about community and the need, the fact that we need each other. You know, we need each other. We do. And, and then I bring it all together in the last week with kind of a practical next steps. What does this mean in practice? What do we do with this kind of a thing? So, hey, Wendy, how are you? That's the course. I highly recommend it. I was just chatting off camera to Carly. I'm going to be redoing it later this year. But everyone that buys this original course will get access to the new one completely for free. So you're getting a 2-for-1. You'll get the original and you'll get the new one when the time for that comes. So yeah, if that's your thing, then that'd be great.
I'm down.
Very good. Well, we'll start with some questions then.
Be my guest.
So there's something that's been discussed quite a lot on our Victorians Against the Great Forest National Park page, and it's around Clive Palmer and the Trumpeter Patriots. And they're preferencing what they're doing with that. And the concern seems to be that people don't think that if they won some lower house seats that they would be likely to actually even support the Liberal Party in forming government. Now, obviously, you got no special inside knowledge, but you generally have a pretty wise insight into what people are trying to do. So I thought it'd be worth getting your take on the matter.
Reality check. Trumpeter Patriots are not winning a single lower house seat this election. Not one. But for the record, neither are the Libertarians.
Nope.
The only party, in my opinion, the only one of the freedom-friendly minor parties that has a chance at any lower house seats is going to be One Nation. This is just my opinion. And they only have a chance in a few very specific seats where they're running a candidate that's got really strong local profile. They're running the kind of person that would have done really well just as a pure independent, but it so happens they managed to get someone like that to run under the One Nation banner. Those are the only seats where any of these freedom-friendly minor parties have any chance of winning a lower house seat. And so people then kind of say, well, what's the point if we're not going to get them elected? Well, you have to understand the bigger picture that we're in here. So can I do a sort of a civics 101 with you guys for sort of 5 minutes or so? Just go through how all this works. All right. So there are two houses of parliament. There's the lower house, also known as the House of Representatives. There's the upper house, also known as the Senate. Now, the lower house is the one that actually forms government. So when we talk about who wins the election, what we're talking about is which party got more members elected in the lower house, because you have to have a majority in the lower house in order to become the prime minister. So Anthony Albanese wants to be the prime minister. Peter Dutton wants to be the prime minister. They've each got their respective parties behind them. Now, what being a part of a party means is that you're signing on to support the party leader as the person who's going to be the prime minister if your party gets a majority. And so we elect our local representative, and then our local representatives get together and they essentially elect the prime minister from amongst their own number. That's functionally, it's a little bit different to that because it's all kind of predetermined through the party system these days. But in the original design, that's how it worked. Now, lower house seats are extremely hard to win because there's only one seat per area, and therefore to win it, you have to end up with more than 50% of the vote. We have a preferential system that allows preferences to flow. If anyone's not sure how that works, I've done multiple marbles videos on that. Jump onto YouTube at the end of this and just do Topher field marbles. And there's like 6 of them that I've done over the years for Victorian or federal elections. There's one that takes only 9 minutes. It's how to vote using marbles in 9 minutes. You can watch that. That'll explain how the preferential side of things works. But the bottom line is, to win a seat in the lower house, you've got to have a majority of the population who prefer you over the next best alternative. That's a very difficult thing to do because most Australians are loyal either to the Labor Party or the Liberal Party. And so for any other party to come over the top of them in the lower house right now is very, very difficult. So that's why I say Trumpeter Patriots, they're a schmozzle. They're a brand new brand. It's obviously United Australia Party, not a brand new brand. Technically, they are a pre-existing brand that he's kind of taken over, but that's really irrelevant as far as the electorate are concerned. And unfortunately, they're not looking like a fighting fit outfit. They're not looking like a group that actually knows how to win. We've seen today a huge debacle with their how to vote cards and people saying that they were deceived internally, that someone has tampered with their how to vote cards. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I know that their how to vote cards made no sense, and that their initial story that they came out with was that they were just trying to unseat the incumbents, and now that story seems to be changing. The whole thing's not good, right? So for me personally, Trumpeter Patriots are relatively irrelevant. I will still include them above the Liberal Party. So I'm going all the freedom-friendly minor parties at the top, all of them, every single one, even the ones I don't really like, including Trumpeter Patriots. But they'll be the last. For me personally, my personal view, I am a libertarian. I'm putting the Libertarian Party first, probably One Nation second, and then a bunch of others, Family First. If you have a People First candidate, that's Jared Rennick's party in your area, make sure you go with them, etc. I'm just going to go through the list. And Trumpeter Patriots will be the last one before I then get to the Liberal Party, which will be the first of the majors that I will put in. And I can go through that in more detail later. But so the objective here is not to take over the lower house. It's not going to happen. We're not getting a majority in the lower house. And it's probably not going to happen in the next few elections. It's not to say it's impossible, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the main game this election is the Senate. The Senate works completely differently. So instead of having a defined geographical area where we pick one candidate for that whole area, we do it state by state, and there are 12 senators per state. But when you get elected as a senator, you automatically get 2 terms as a senator. So there's only 6 seats in the Senate up for election each time. But what that means is you don't need a majority. You just need 1/6 of the vote. And with preferences, it's possible to gather those votes together as other candidates that get less than you get eliminated. You can benefit from the preferences from them, and you can work your way up to that 1/6. And in actual fact, the way it works in reality is that number 6 Senate seat doesn't get a full quota. It's just the person who's closest to a quota out of the remaining parties and the remaining candidates that are left. So in actual fact, you can get a Senate seat with a primary vote of maybe 2 or 3%, plus preferences getting you up to about 7%, and that can be enough to pick up that final Senate spot in each state. Now, this strategy of picking up that seat is exactly how the Greens took over the balance of power in the Senate. That's exactly the technique that they used, was to just try and get enough of a vote and enough support and enough preferences from other crappy little socialist parties that they would always just pick up that final Senate seat. And if you do that for 2 elections in a row for every state in Australia, you end up with a dozen senators around us sitting in our parliament. And most of the time, they're going to hold what's called the balance of power. So like I said, in the lower house, to become the prime minister, you need a majority. Well, that means that when you bring forward legislation, when you want to make new laws, you've automatically got a majority in the lower house. It's already there. You wouldn't be the prime minister if you didn't have that support in the lower house. But the House of Review, the upper house, the Senate, also has to agree with the legislation or it does not become law. And so if neither party has a majority in the upper house, then the crossbench, whoever's sitting in the middle, has an enormous amount of negotiating power. And for the last 20 odd years, that's been the Greens. And they've used that influence to drag our politics to the hard left towards socialism, Marxism, and now even the issues that you guys are so passionate about, access to our land and the locking up of our parks and all of that. Well, that's a Greens dream. That's come really from them and from the fact that they took over our Senate or the balance of power in our Senate. So what this is actually about in the first instance is reducing the number of Senate spots that the Greens win and replacing them instead with good people from the Libertarian Party, One Nation, Family First, People First, all these guys. You know, Great Australia, there's a plethora of them. And we can do that. We can do that this election. We know that we can. We already have Malcolm Roberts. We already have, well, Rennick is in a different situation because he was in the Liberal Party and he's recently left, but hopefully he'll get re-elected. We already have Pauline Hanson. We already have Ralph Babette for the United Australia Party. We know that this can happen. We've got Craig Kelly running in New South Wales under a unity ticket between the Libertarians, the Heart Party, and I think it's People First. I think it is. It's the unity ticket there. We can get these guys in. That's what this election is really actually about. And it's about building. So can I show you something? So this is an ex post by John Humphreys from earlier today. I'm just gonna read this out. What he's done here is he's listed year by year, election by election. He's listed how many seats the winning party have held. So the party that got the majority, how many seats did they get? Out of how many seats did they need? Because the number of seats required, or the number of seats in the lower house has changed over time. But more importantly, if you can just see that last number there in brackets, that's the size of the crossbench in the lower house. That's the number of of sitting MPs that don't belong to the Liberal, Labor, or National parties. All right. Now you go back to well, when was I born? I was born in 82. So if you go back to the 1983 election, Labor won with 75 seats. They needed only 63 in order to win. I've gone and blown my camera out now. My camera's not happy with it. They only needed 63 seats to win. They got 75, and there were 0 lower house members on the crossbench. 0. Come back to the year 2001, there were 3 people on the crossbench. Now, these are, remember, lower house members. So these are people who got their 50% in their seat, but they don't come from the Liberal or National parties or the Labor Party. Now, in this case, they're mostly Greens. The Greens were starting to get some traction in lower house seats in Melbourne and in Sydney. Fast forward to today, or to 2022, there were 14 crossbench lower house members. Now, unfortunately, most of them are Greens and Teals. The Teals did really well in that election, and they're about to get their ass kicked. They're on the nose.
Oh, yeah.
Their time is done. But what this demonstrates conclusively is that Australians are getting comfortable with the idea of electing people that don't come from one of those major parties. They're getting used to that idea. And what we need to do is to capitalize on that sentiment. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to turn my lights down a little bit here.
Looks like Casper.
My face is looking weird. You know, I'm so vain. I have to make sure I look. I'll sit back a little bit because my skin tone looks a bit more natural. Right. So this is a trend that is already happening. This is a trend that is already underway. What we need to do is to make that trend move in our direction rather than towards the Greens. We need to offer a real and viable and meaningful alternative. And I believe that these parties are doing a good job of doing that. I think the message about preferencing is starting to get out, where people are realizing you don't just vote number 1 Libertarian and number 2 Liberal Party. You vote Libertarian, One Nation, Great Australia Party, Family First, People First, all of them, every single one, even the ones that you kind of don't really like, but yeah, okay, fine, I'll include you, right? And then you finally get to the point where, yeah, potentially we're going to start to see some of our parties picking up lower house seats, but before that, it's going to be picking up Senate seats, and I think that's what we're going to see in this election.
All right. Just before we go to this question, now you said just before you're a libertarian. From knowing your content, you mean in the sense that that's the philosophy you believe in? You're not a member of the party anymore?
Yeah. No, I'm not a member of the party anymore, but they are my number 1. I do vote for them first because I am a libertarian. Now, other people are, for example, more nationalist, and that might make you want to go more for one nation before you'd go for the libertarians. Okay, and that's fine. But I'm more of a libertarian. I'll put libertarian at number 1, and then I'll put the nationalist parties at number 2, 3, 4. Whatever, right? And if you want to put the nationalist parties first, that's fine. Just make sure you include libertarian in there somewhere at 4 or 5, wherever it is for you, before you put any of the majors.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify so people didn't think you were just another politician trying to get his party in or something.
No. I'm not. To be clear, I'm not running. I ran at the last federal election because the party almost literally begged me to. I was happy to do it, and if I had happened to win, then I would have happily gone to Canberra and done my job. But I don't actually want to be a politician. That is not an ambition of mine. And actually, there's a good lesson in there. So myself, I was campaigning down in Tasmania for the Senate for the now Libertarian Party. And I teamed up with the lead Senate candidates from One Nation and UAP, Steve Mav and I will remember her name in a minute. And we actually campaigned a lot side by side, all on this message. Don't vote number 1 for me and then vote number 2 for one of the major parties. Vote number 1, 2, 3 for the 3 of us in whatever order you want. And we shared the stage at events and we preached this message. I don't care if you put him first and her second and me in third. That's fine. I would rather you did that than you put me in number 1 and then a major party in number 2, because that's not going to get us anywhere. All right. And we were all on that message. And then when I looked at the results, 80% of the people that voted for me voted number 1 for me, number 2 for the Liberal Party.
Yep. All right.
Now, when you run the numbers, if the voters for the 3 of us had done what we said, if 50% of the voters for the 3 of us had done what we said, I would be a senator in Canberra right now. That's how close it is.
I think that leads into a question I had for later. So I'm sorry, Ethan, but because we're on that subject, we're gonna hit on it now. A lot of people are saying, look, if you put, I don't know if they don't understand the Marbles videos. They say they've watched it, but they're worried that if they put too many minor parties before the Liberals could still lose that seat to Labor.
I think we've got this question here.
Have we got that question already?
Yeah. So
sorry, Ethan, we will come back to you, mate.
Yeah, sorry, mate. I think it's this one. Yeah. If we don't vote for the Libs or at least preference them second, they won't have enough votes to get in. It feels like we are watering down the Liberal vote. Can you ask Topher, please?
So great question. And this is the kind of stuff that our education system should have taught each of us in school. And unfortunately, it hasn't. So we need to be willing to ask these questions, and I'm more than happy to answer them. So the way this works is your vote is passed on in full. There is no dilution. It doesn't get watered down in the lower house, right? I'm gonna separate the lower and upper houses here. In the lower house, it makes no difference. If your vote reaches the Liberal Party at number 20, it has the same power as if you'd voted for them at number 1. It does not dilute at all. All right. So you can in the lower house, you can put that to bed. There is a weird thing that happens in the Senate, and I don't know how deep you want to go, because we could literally just go deep on how the mathematics of the Senate system works. But because there's 6 seats available, let's just do a quick thought experiment here. If, let's say, the Liberal Party get enough votes for 2.5 seats, so now they've got 2 senators elected, but then their half is not enough to get a third one, and their preferences get passed on. Who decides, out of all of the Liberal Party votes, who decides which ones get the preferences passed on and which ones were used to elect the existing senators, the 2 quotas that they already got? It's kind of unfair, right? Some preferences get used and other preferences don't. So what they do is they have a mathematical system, and I promise you it works. It's actually a brilliant idea. They have a mathematical system where they go, right, the total number of votes were this, the leftover number of votes is this. So we're going to take all of the preferences, divide them down so that they are watered down to the correct amount of power for the remaining proportion of votes given the original amount of votes, and then we're going to pass those on. So in the Senate, you end up with watered down preferences. But that only happens for parties that have already had someone elected. If a senator gets eliminated and no one from that party has been elected as a senator, then those votes continue to get passed on in full, right? So in practice, in practical terms for what we're trying to do here, it doesn't matter where you put the Liberal Party, your vote will arrive with them in full, because even in the Senate, the chances of there having been some other senator elected first and diluting the power of your preference is almost 0. So that's the technical answer.
And it's not the Senate that forms government, like we said before.
And it's the lower house that forms government, not the Senate. Correct.
All right.
Do you want to tackle Ethan's question?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get back to Ethan, I think.
Where are you, Ethan?
Ethan.
He is here.
Great people. But if you've been around for as long as they have and haven't had electoral success yet, then you're doing something wrong. You're not cutting through. All right. So I admire them. I think there's some really great people in that party. Would I include them in my top preferences? Well, yeah, probably, but just in front of trumpeter patriots. Like, You know, I'm going to focus on the parties, and this is going to upset some people, but I'm going to focus on the parties that have some history of actually getting people elected, either at a state level or at a federal level in the past. Now, the two big ones for this election, that means the two big ones, and in my opinion, the two that we should be putting right up the front are going to be Libertarian and One Nation. Now, Family First have had elected members in the past, but then they went into kind of hibernation. They've just been reborn. So I'd probably put them next. People First obviously has a senator right now, but he wasn't elected as a People First senator. He was elected as a Liberal Party senator and has since split for good and valid reasons. I support him doing what he's done. But again, the two parties that are really in this with the ability to get senators, and in the case of One Nation, to get even some lower house members in a few very specific spots, the two in the game are the Libertarians and One Nation. Now, I'm not going to leave out the others, but I am going to put Libertarian and One Nation at the top of my card, and then I'll list out the others after that.
Very good. We've got our next question there. Sorry, guys, we're new to live streams. Topher's got to learn a whole lot of patience.
So Ethan's just asked a follow-up question here. So the Liberal Democrats have had elected members now in the Victorian state, in the New South Wales state, in the WA state, and in the federal Senate. And they did so. Their first senator was elected, Senator David Leyonhjelm. The party's been around now for, I think, 22 years. Senator Leyonhjelm was elected some 10 or more years ago. So, Ethan, sorry, but no, they had electoral success within roughly a decade of starting. They've had electoral success across multiple states. They've had electoral success federally, as have One Nation. These are the two parties that have a proven track record of being able to get people elected. So they are the two that I'll be putting at the top, not to the exclusion of the others, to be clear, not to the exclusion of the others, but they are the two that I'll be putting at the top of my ticket because those are the two that are really actually in this game.
Okay. Okay, let's go. Let's go one of the. Should we go one of the?
Yep.
Yep. So we'll go for Brad's comment that he asked. He asked this earlier. So Brad's asked, in reality, what will it take to evict the two major parties and bring preferences to some of the independent and minor parties that will actually be on our side?
In reality, another 9 years. That's
but we are moving it forward. It's,
correct.
It's a step forward.
Correct. It's not in the never. I mean, we saw that with that post that I just shared with you from John Humphreys. We've gone from having no crossbench 40 years ago to having 3 on the crossbench 20 years ago to having 14 on the crossbench now, right? It is happening. It's moving. But this is a long-term project. And I always remind myself, I inherited the freedoms that I inherited when I was born because of people that fought before I was born. And yes, fought in wars, but also fought politically. They fought their internal political battles. They stood up for things. They championed concepts like human rights before they'd ever really been conceptualized fully. And we inherited those because they fought for us before we were born. And this battle will continue long after I'm dead. Future generations will continue to have to fight for the very same things. So my job is to fight and to fight my good fight while it's my turn. And if I'm breathing, it's my turn. It's that simple. Right? It's my turn from when I started breathing until I stopped breathing. And when I stop breathing, then my turn is over and it goes to somebody else. So from my point of view, there's no issue with the fact that it's going to be another 3 elections before we really actually have a shot at this. But what we need to see is continued progress, continuing to move towards that goal, because ultimately we can absolutely get there. There is nothing magical about the Liberal or Labor parties that means that they have this God-given right to be the two majors. And in fact, they weren't the majors not so long ago, right? They've both been around for a while now, but neither of these parties existed right at the very outset. They formed since then. And so to be able to replace them or to see them at least be challenged and to be co-equals amongst 3 or 4 or 5 parties all vying, well, that's what a lot of European countries have. They have to form government out of a messy parliament with sort of 5 parties, 6 parties, all getting large amounts of the vote. And in many respects, that works better than having one party that can just take everything for granted because they can get an outright majority. So we can move in that direction. We already are moving in that direction, but it is going to take time.
Yep. And I'll add to that. If you want to move in that direction, identify the party that you most align with and preferably one you think can have success. But, you you can't find one you think can have success and you align with them, try and help them have success and get involved a little bit. I personally, I really enjoyed being a part of the Libertarian Party when I was there. I still can't help but run around the state dropping off how to vote cards for them when I'm not I'm supposed to be doing other things. It's like I really enjoyed it. So I'd encourage people to give that a go. Just get a little bit involved, get a whole lot involved, do whatever you can, and of course, donations. Parties always need them.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we're actively giving you guys, ways to help these minor parties, and the ways for you to go out and with the core flutes, just to even at pre-polling, everything like that, just helping these minor parties out. That's massive. So if you just
Australians don't realise how few Australians are politically active.
Yeah.
And actually, the Liberal and Labor Party are run by a relatively small number of people. There's the party machine itself, the party staffers, and then they have their various branches. And the candidate that gets put forward in each branch is elected by the popular vote of the members of that branch, with some exceptions. We've seen captain's picks happening with the Liberal Party, particularly more recently. But the way it's supposed to be is that the members, the financial members of the party, choose who the candidate is going to be. Well, the number of financial members in each of these branches is often very, very small. So if you actually get involved at that level, you could find yourself having some significant influence over who your local candidate for one of the major parties can be. And then if you get involved in the minor parties, your level of influence is going to be far larger because that party is much smaller. All right. So it's a bit of a choice. You can have a small influence on a big party, but a party that's more likely to end up in government, or you can have a large influence on a small party. Now, you can influence that party a lot more, but that party is much less likely to get that member elected. And so it just comes down to what do you want? Do you want to be a small fish in a big pond, but to have a small effect on a big party that could end up in government? Or do you want to have a big effect on a smaller party, which probably will not get that member elected? But in the same way that the Greens have dragged politics across with a very small number of elected members, that's exactly what we're trying to do. And so these small parties are going to be the tail that wags the dog. And you could potentially have a lot of influence in your local branch for that party if you just choose to start showing up, start putting in the hours, start putting in the steps, put your Fitbit on and start walking down the street and stuffing things in letterboxes. If you're willing to do that, then you can have a tremendous impact, and people don't realize how few Australians are actually involved.
Yep. And look, the Greens have got plenty of volunteers. I don't know what it is, but they've got plenty.
No,
our side needs them.
I know what it is. I've worked it out.
Okay.
They're a cult.
Yes. Yeah. They are the Green Church.
It's creepy.
Yeah. And it's actually the most reminiscent church that they are the most like is the Holy Roman Catholic Church. When you actually look at the structure of the Holy Roman Catholic Church, and you particularly take into account things like indulgences, which were that was a historical anomaly that happened for a brief period of time, but it's real. It happened where, hey, you can sin, you just have to give the church some money. Well, I'm sorry, but CO2 carbon credits, and I paid to plant some trees so I could fly my private jet. That sounds a hell of a lot like an indulgence, right?
Love it. Ethan's quite correct there. Yeah, no, we're not a cult. The words of a cult.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway,
what's the next question?
We'll get on to Daryl's.
All right, good question, Daryl.
What's the best way to achieve this in the Senate? 6 above the line or every box below the line?
Yeah. All right. So me personally, I'm going to vote above the line in the Senate. The difference is this. When you vote above the line, you're voting for that party in the order in which they appear on the ballot. So under each party, you're going to find more than one candidate because there's up to 6 Senate seats available. So the major parties will run 6 candidates. Not that all 6 will ever win for one single solitary party, but they'll run 6 candidates. And so your vote counts towards all of them. If you put the number 1 in their column, then your vote counts towards each of them. None of them got elected. Okay, then it goes to your number 2 preference and it counts for all of them. So it's the entire party that you're voting for each time. The reason why you might choose to vote below the line is because maybe you know enough about a given party to know that this specific individual is going to be a good senator, but these other ones are going to be crap. And so you want to isolate that individual. So, for example, if I was in South Australia, I would vote below the line because I want to be able to pick out Alex antics specifically for South Australia without supporting the rest of the Muppets they put forward, right? So that's the context in which I would go below the line. Now, where I am, doesn't matter. I'm happy to vote above the line and just let my vote go to the particular parties. Now, Daryl, so the minimum number to number is 6, but you can number more. You can number as many as you want. You don't have to stop at 6. The way that I'm going to approach the Senate is this, and I'm going to say something a little bit controversial here, and people are probably going to jump down my throat, but there is method to my madness. I'm going to start by preferencing, by writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 alongside every one of the decent freedom-friendly parties, and that includes the ones that have never had anyone elected, the Citizens Party, GAP, all the rest of it. Yeah, I'll include them, but I'm going to start with the Libertarians, then I'm going to go One Nation, and I'm probably going to go People First, Family First, et cetera, GAP, all the rest of it, okay? Then when I run out of them, having numbered every single one, even the ones that I already know have no chance, I'll still number them. I will then list the Liberal National Party next, right? They will be my blocker. Hopefully my vote will never move past them. Now, in the Senate, you have the option of stopping, which means you have the risk of your vote exhausting, right? Which means, so it's gone through all of the preferences, none of them have won a seat, and now your vote just goes to no one, right? So you're effectively an informal vote at that point. You don't count. For that reason, I will put Labor at the end. Because in some situations, and we cannot predict in advance whether this will happen in our state or not, it's just based on how everyone else votes. Sometimes the seat will come down to, the final Senate seat will come down to a choice between Labor and the Greens. All the good freedom-friendly parties might have already been eliminated. The Liberal Party might have already won 3 seats. They've done really well, but they've got nowhere near enough to get a 4th seat. Labor have got 2 seats. Let's say take a state. Liberals have got 3 seats. Labor have got 2 seats. There's 1 seat left, and it's come down to whether Labor have enough left after claiming their 2 seats to get that 3rd seat, or whether the Greens have got enough to come over the top of them. And if that's the situation at the end, I want my vote to count towards Labor because I want to get the Greens out of Parliament. So I will go every single one of the good freedom-friendly parties, then Liberal, then Labor, then stop. Because after that, if it comes down to a choice between the Greens and a Teal, well, at that point, I've got no opinion. They can all go to hell. So I'll stop at Labor. Right, all the good ones, then Liberal. That's my backstop. That's that. I hope it never goes past the Liberals. But if it goes past the Liberals, we're in a really bad situation. This has come down to a coin toss between 2 really bad parties. And if that's the situation, I would rather my vote ends up with Labor than has no effect at all.
Than the Human Extinctionist Party.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, the anti-humanists. Yeah.
Okay, so put up Ethan's. So I'm probably voting in my country electorate of Nichols, Shepparton, Citizens Party, One Nation, Trumpet of Patriots, Nationals, Labor. Yep. Looks good to me.
Yep, looks good. And you'll notice a lot of the time the Libertarians don't have lower house candidates. They've had to make a strategic decision not to spend the money on doing that. So you're going to find that that a lot of the time, the Libertarians just won't appear on the lower house ballot. But if they do, then include them somewhere in that mix above the Liberal Party.
Yep. And in the Senate, the whole state votes for the same Senate. So you'll find them in the Senate ticket.
Correct.
Very good.
Okay. So I've got another question here from Christine,
who
asked earlier. So I would like Topher's expertise on this. If I put a whole list of minor parties and independents as my 1 to 5 and they don't get enough votes, will my preference go to number 6, Libs?
That is exactly what will happen. That is exactly what will happen.
We're educating people well.
Yep. And in the lower house, that's guaranteed every single time. That's exactly what will happen. In the upper house, there is a minute possibility that your vote might get diluted down because one of the other parties did get someone elected and then there were leftover votes and there's part of a quota, which means that your preferences only count for part of their value. It's all very technical. In practice, if you're putting all the minor parties at the top, either one of them is going to win a seat, at which point your vote is going to be a part of making that happen, or they're all going to miss out on a seat, at which point your vote goes in full to whichever your backstop party is, which in this example that you've given here, Christine, is going to be the Liberal Party. So there is a minute chance that something else will happen, that only a diluted amount of your vote will reach the Liberal Party, but it's such a minute possibility. It's a mathematical possibility, but it's so minute for practical purposes, you can put it out of your mind. Yes, if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the good parties, and then number 6, the Liberal Party, your vote will end up sticking with the Liberal Party almost certainly.
That's good to know. I think it's good to hear from you. I've been saying this in the group and everything, but yeah. You're the expert in this. So
yeah, your marbles video's been up probably just about every week for the last 6 weeks. But
it's getting about 5,000 views a day at the moment, and I'm led to believe, based on the IP address, that Carly is about 4,500 of those. Yeah.
Correct.
Let me share some good news with you, though, because there is some momentum building. There's something that's shifted, which is really, really nice. And so I did an interview with Joel Jamal from Turning Point Australia. I put that online earlier today. I promoted his turningpointaustralia.com.au website, where he's put up how to vote cards, and they're fantastic. All right. You don't have to follow them slavishly, but I reckon download it for your area and use it as a starting point. You might look at it and go, oh, yeah, I'm going to adjust 1 or 2 things, but it's going to give you the basics. It's going to get you in the ballpark, all right? So I put up that interview at, I think, 1 o'clock this afternoon. His website has been crashing ever since. It can't cope with the traffic being generated. And I'm watching I'm watching the views happening on my marbles videos and things like that. And there's thousands and thousands of views happening every single day across the different videos. In fact, there's probably over 10,000 views between the different versions of the marbles video. I'm probably somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000 views a day, but across all the versions. So Australians are educating themselves. One of my marbles videos now has over 200,000 views on it. Australians are educating themselves.
That's amazing.
How about something a bit darker, Topher?
Sure.
What does not voting getting us? We've got all these people saying, don't vote. You don't have to spend too much time on stupid things. Just tell them what the rewards are.
Okay, so there is this idea that if enough of us don't vote, that's somehow going to force a change, right? I hear this online. It's like, oh, if we all just boycott the vote, then we'll get real change. Okay, let me paint a picture for you. If there's 25 million eligible voters in Australia, and 24,999,999 of them abstain or draw a dick and balls on their ballot, and 1 person casts a valid vote, the winner will be declared with 100% of the vote. Whoever that 1 person voted for will decide who the Prime Minister is going to be with 100% of the vote from that 1 person. Because as soon as you take yourself out of that voting pool, you no longer count. They don't care how many people are informal. They don't care how many people write insults on the ballot. They don't care. There is no provision in law that says they have to do X, Y, and Z if enough people abstain from the vote. Now, what this comes from is black pilling. These are people who kind of want to throw their hands up in the air and go, oh, it's all no good. It's all hopeless. It's selected, not elected, blah, blah, blah. A couple of things on this real quick. I've heard that time and again in my life. The first big political fight that I was involved in was the North-South Pipeline, trying to stop irrigation water from being stolen out of the Eildon catchment and sent down to Melbourne for drinking water. And I'm a city boy. I'm a Melbourne boy. That water would have been coming out of my tap. And even so, I opposed it. Okay. And because on principle, it's just wrong. It's absolutely wrong that we would do such a thing. And so I was involved in that fight, and I was told, don't bother. Don't bother. It's a done deal. Labor are going to win the next election. The pipeline's going to get turned on, blah, blah, blah. I partnered up with someone by the name of Jan Beer, and she ran as an independent in the Whittlesea area. Her husband's one of the car dealership owners there. Some of you guys, yeah. So some of you guys will know who I'm talking about. Jan, wonderful woman. And she was going to run as an independent and preference the Liberal Party. Not that she thought she was going to win, but she was going to try and use this issue and use the preferences to stop Labor from getting that seat. She partnered with me. I made the video. She was burning that video onto DVDs and hand delivering them into people's letterboxes because the internet wasn't fast enough in 2010 for people to be able to watch. And it worked. She got enough votes that her preferences were the deciding factor between Labor and Liberal in her seat. And get this, the Liberal Party won by a single seat. So Jan Beer, running on that issue of plug the pipe, with some of my help, but mostly her legwork, and directing her preferences, because back then it was party preferences. It was actually, she as the candidate would direct where her preferences went. That's not the case in this upcoming election. That's different there, but back then that was true. She changed the government in Victoria.
Wow.
Now, none of us could have known in advance that that was going to be the case. You just have to roll the dice. And every now and again, lightning strikes. Then fast forward. So my point there is people said, don't bother, selected, not elected. It's a done deal. Don't bother fighting it. I then got involved in the fight against Julia Gillard's News Media Council. This was a thing that was recommended out of a thing called the Finkelstein Report. It was basically going to be a ministry of truth. Again, I was told, don't bother. This censorship is coming. It's coming. It's going to be shoved down our throats. Don't bother fighting it. Well, I fought it along with a lot of other good people. And ultimately, Julia Gillard got stabbed in the back by Kevin Rudd. And that went by the by, along with, by the way, the not a carbon tax. That Julia Gillard was putting forward. Again, I was told, don't bother fighting it. The UN want a carbon tax. They want a carbon tax. Don't bother fighting it. Well, we won on the News Media Council. We won on the carbon tax. And yeah, okay, they've tried to bring them back in various ways. But my point is, these things are not done deals. The Voice was a done deal. Don't bother. They have decided they want it to happen. Well, we kicked their fucking asses. Okay, I'm sorry, but we did. Because enough of us kept believing and ignored the black-pilled naysayers. Now, here's my message to the black-pilled naysayers. If you want to believe that it's all beyond hope and it's all too far gone and it's no good, and you want to F off to some paddock somewhere with a couple of shipping containers full of ammunition and wait for the zombie apocalypse, be my guest, but shut up.
Yep.
100%. Because this is the thing. The minute they feel the need to convince you that it's hopeless, they've betrayed the fact that they're afraid they're wrong. If they actually believe it's hopeless, then they don't care what you believe. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit whether you want to waste your time, makes you feel good? Sure, go for it. That's the real black pill. The complete ambivalence. You do what you want, man. I don't care. I'm out. That's the real black pill. The people that feel the need to make you agree with them, they are afraid on the inside that they're wrong, and they're afraid on the inside that you will prove them wrong. And my determination, my decision is I will prove them wrong. That's what I'm going to do. So the issue here is coming back to the previous question before this one from Ethan, which I'll get to this, Ethan, mate. Just calm down. I see you in the comments. You're being sorry, Ethan. Ethan and I know each other in real life, so I'm going to be direct. Ethan, you're being a bit of a dick. Calm down. Take a breath. All right. This is an hour and 15-minute podcast. All right. Take your time. I love you, Ethan, but just chill. So the issue there is people saying don't vote. It doesn't make a difference anyway. Well, if you believe it doesn't make a difference, then you must believe it doesn't make a difference whether I do vote. So why do you care? Why are you out there preaching the message of don't vote? What's in it for you? And what I think is in it for them is they're terrified that they've given up. They don't want to put in the effort. What I actually think it is laziness. They don't want to do the work. And so they make themselves feel better about not doing the work by telling themselves that it wouldn't make a difference. But then if you go and do the work and it does make a difference, then you've proven them wrong. And that's why they feel the need to get out there on the internet. Oh, don't bother. It's all selected, not elected, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So let's talk about what do we think about the fact that the black pillars bring up the fact that the political parties have an Australian business number. Yeah, they're businesses. Political parties are businesses. They have bottom lines. They pay taxes. They have profit and loss. They have members. They're businesses. The Australian government is registered on the New York Stock Exchange. That's correct. If they're registered there because they sell bonds on the global bond market, and in order to be able to sell bonds on the global bond market, you have to be registered with the people that administrate the bond market, and they give you a number. That's what happens. It doesn't mean we're owned by the Americans. It just means that we can sell our bonds on the American administrated bond market. That's what that is. So no, all this stuff, they grab onto things that they don't really understand, and they blow it out of proportion, and they say, oh, this is the big lizard people conspiracy theory, right? There's some mystical they out there controlling everything. Listen, if there is some they out there controlling everything, they are really shit at it. Because they are not doing a very good job. If they have complete control over everything, they are not doing a very good job of getting their way.
Well, that's that reminds me of with this national park that I was told, is done deal. Don't bother.
Yep.
And it was supposed to have gone through last July, and we started fighting it in May, and we stopped it before July, and then now they still haven't put out their recommendations.
Let's continue the list. Digital ID for company directors. They're still not enforcing it. They're trying to scare everybody. Oh, we're going to enforce this any minute now. We're going to enforce this. They're still not enforcing it. The censorship laws that they tried to bring through. Yeah, okay, they've got some hate speech stuff through, which is not what they wanted. They wanted actual censorship stuff. They haven't got that. Have a look at the UN, the World Health Organization, with their pandemic treaty. Yeah, we're working on it. We're still working on it. It's in a working group, okay? This is not what they wanted. This is not what they thought was going to happen. When COVID came along, and whether they deliberately leaked it out of the lab or whether they just took advantage of an unintentional leak, I'm really ambivalent on that point. I don't really care.
Yeah.
The fact is, it was an opportunity. Whether they made it happen or whether they saw it happen, it was an opportunity, and they jumped on it. And they thought it couldn't go wrong. But what's actually happened is they've overplayed their hand. A lot of people now are going, hang on, something's not right in the world. This doesn't feel right. I feel like I've seen this movie before, and it doesn't end well for the ordinary citizens. And they've actually really sort of woken the sleeping giant. And people say, oh, but there's not enough of us. Well, there's certainly not a majority of us. We are a minority, and we need to just be okay with the fact that we're a minority of people. But historically speaking, if 3% of a population are willing to pay a price to stand up for something, they win. It's this amazing that number comes up over and over again. French Revolution, American Revolution, etc. If 3% of the population are willing to pay a price. Now, what that means in reality is they've probably got another 10% of the population that supports them, that is sympathetic with them. So they're a significant minority. It's not just 3% of the population. It's 3% of the population willing to pay a price. In the case of the American Revolution, that was willing to pick up weapons and go marching out there to face the British. But also, there's so many other examples where it's more of a political thing. They're willing to invest their time. They're willing to show up to protests and marches. They're willing to become candidates. They're willing to pay a price. Once you reach a critical mass of just 3% of the population willing to pay a price, which means that your movement is probably 15% of the population, let's say, less than 20% of the population, then you actually win, because most other people aren't willing to pay a price. And even in Australia, 3% of the population willing to pay a price is 750,000 people. Can you imagine if 750,000 Australians actually got active in politics? Can you imagine how quickly this country would be transformed? It'd be incredible.
It's so frustrating.
It is really frustrating. But that's really where I'm at. I'm like, we've just got to keep going. We've got to keep believing, because I keep pressing on, believing like an idiot that I can make a difference, being told that I'm an idiot by people who say I can't make a difference. And then they keep having to shut up because I made a difference.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to keep doing it. Yeah.
Well, you've been instrumental in helping me. I with the mental health side of things of these fights and everything. I did go through a bit of a bad period, and I actually sat there and I read your book in one day.
Oh wow!
The book that you signed and gave to me at Kinglake, and I sat there and
that was Tim's idea, by the way. You can thank Tim for that.
Yeah, he's beautiful. But yeah, I sat there and I read the whole thing in one day, and the just the way that you gave me tips on how to deal with the nasty comments and the negativity and everything like that, and it's really helped me. So yeah, thank you. You are making a huge difference.
I appreciate that. And this is the thing. It takes an army of people, but it's this weird thing where it takes an army that isn't centrally organized. It takes an army of people doing the thing that they're passionate about. And I get a lot of people come to me saying, "Oh, we all need to come together around one issue." I'm like, "Do we?"
No.
I'm not convinced that we do. And even if we do, let's just give them the benefit. Let's just say, okay, at some point, in order for us to really have an impact, we're all going to have to coalesce around a single issue. I have enough faith in my fellow man that at some point in time, we're going to figure that out. And that issue will arise. Cometh the hour, cometh the man. If we build the movement, that movement will find that issue. If we really do all have to unite around a single issue, once that movement has momentum, we will find that issue. We will find that moment. And it's essentially just faith in each other. This is, from my point of view as a libertarian, what a libertarian is someone who says, I believe in you. And I believe that even if you get it wrong, it's better that you make your own decision, you own it and the consequences of it, and then I'll help you dig your way out of that mess if that's what it's going to take, all right? Than to have some bureaucrat in Canberra get it wrong and all of us have to be the ones that suffer for it, right? Libertarianism is, libertarianism is essentially a belief in each other. Not that we're perfect, not that we never get anything wrong, but that's the less bad option than any of the other options that we have. And so if we're going to build a libertarian movement, it can't be built on centralized control. It can't be built on me going, everybody needs to do what I say. I'll tell you which issues are worth fighting and which ones aren't. No, you do you. I believe in you. And I believe that you're going to pick the issues that matter to you, which means you're going to throw your energy into them, which means you've got a chance of getting somewhere. And if I redirected you onto the issue that I care about, but it's not really an issue that you care about, then neither of us are going to get anywhere.
Love it.
All right. Do we have another question here?
I don't think we do. No, I ran out of those ones.
It's not too bad. We are pushing towards the hour.
We are. We are. Yeah. Let's just see.
I didn't have any more left here. Talk about something else, Topher.
Yeah. Well, according to my haters on the internet, my favorite subject is myself, so I can just talk about me for a while. No, it is an interesting moment in history, though, and one of the things that I've found really interesting is watching lots of people through COVID sort of wake up is the expression that we're using, right? And it's been interesting to me because even before COVID, I used to say the thing with politics is that people don't care about it until it hurts them, right? And the silver lining of COVID, as terrible as it was, is that it hurt a lot of people.
And it woke a lot of people up.
And that's why you can't get one without the other. You had to have an enormous amount of pain in order for there to be a great awakening. And what we're seeing now, and we were talking just before we started filming, about the fact that it feels like there's been a shift in the air. Sometime January, February this year, somewhere around about there, I've had the wind at my back. I've been propelled forward since then. Anyone that follows me, if you follow me on my YouTube channel, my YouTube following went from less than 30,000. Now, I've been doing this 16 years. I got less than 30,000 followers on YouTube, right? I'm not taking over the world anytime soon, right? And then in the last 2 months, that's more than doubled to over 70,000. Something's shifted. People, I think, are searching. They're looking and they're finding people. You know, there's a lot of people that woke up, 2019, 2020. I'm in a very, very fortunate position where because I started 10 years before that, I have a level of credibility, sort of, for people who know nothing, they don't know who anyone is. And they're just looking around going, something's not right with the world, but I don't know what it is. And I don't know who I can trust. They find a bunch of amazing people that have just popped up in the last couple of years and they go, yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, exactly. But then they find me and they go, oh, he's been around for longer. Right. And because I've been around for longer, I've got more perspective. I can speak into things in a different way than someone who's new. And that's no slight on someone who's new. That's just, I've been doing this for 4 or 5 times longer. I've seen a lot more. I've been through the cycle of campaigns, the cycle of hope, and defeat and victory. And I've been through all that multiple times already. And so I find myself in a really blessed position where I just, I don't know. It's like something has shifted and the wind is at my back and I don't know where this leads. But I think what we're watching happening very, very soon is going to be a collision between the status quo, the establishment, who thought they were never going to be challenged. They thought that they could make all their power grabs, COVID being a great example of that, and that they would never be held accountable. There would never be a pushback. But there is a pushback and it's building. It's still small, but it's building, and it's building quite quickly now. And this collision is going to be really, really fascinating to see.
Looking forward to it.
It is. And what Ron's just said, like the UN, the globalist agenda, people are realizing that all of it is included in the climate emergency. that we're and it's all constructed to control us and take wealth and, you know, all that type of stuff that we all thought was like complete conspiracy theories and stuff like that. But
so I have a different view to most conspiracy theorists. It's conspiracy, but it's not a conspiracy of man. I'm going to lose a bunch of people here. A bunch of people are going to get pissed off. They're going to go and unsubscribe from my YouTube, and I don't know.
They're used to me, so
probably firebomb my house. I genuinely think that what we are witnessing is a continuation of the universe-long struggle between good and evil. And I think if you rewind 400 or 500 years, pre-technology, pre-industrial revolution, pre all of that, spirituality and people's awareness of demons and angels and that there was a spiritual dimension was much greater than what it has been previously. And it's as though having technology and sophistication has kind of wallpapered over a lot of that, and it's made it less visible to us. I'm of the opinion that we're watching a lot of that begin to break through again, and that the war between good and evil is actually becoming much more visible. And I'll illustrate it with a couple of points that are going to really piss people off. In the Bible, we have wisdom in the book of Proverbs is all about wisdom, written by King Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived. And it says that wisdom is crying out for people, come to me and learn from me, and I'll teach you. And it says that those who hate me, this is wisdom speaking, those who hate wisdom love death. That's one of the interesting observations that wisdom makes about itself in Proverbs. We also know from elsewhere in Scripture that the fear of the Lord, the fear of God, is the beginning of wisdom. So what we have there, if we put the two together, is that people who don't fear God love death. And one of the things that we've seen permeate our culture, particularly since the end of World War II, a lot of liberation, a lot of social movements have been centered around a celebration of death. And this is where I'm going to piss people off. The 1960s sexual revolution was followed very quickly by the abolition of all obstacles to human abortion. All right. Now, human beings used to be sacrificed on altars because we want to have a better harvest. If we sacrifice human blood on this altar, we'll get a better harvest. And now it's like, well, you need to sacrifice the baby in your womb so you can finish university and you can have a better job. All right. Different language around it, but I would suggest we're still broadly doing the same thing. Now, I want to be very quick to jump in here and say any woman that finds herself with an unwanted or a problem pregnancy for any reason deserves to be supported. And I think this is an area where the church really falls down. We say, no, the baby's life is important, but we're not actually willing to put our money where our mouth is and get in there for that woman who needs support. Because a lot of these women, they're being pressured by boyfriends or fathers or also, pressured by people around them. And they don't feel like they have support. They feel alone. And if people actually really got alongside them in a meaningful way, then their life, the reality of life for these women isn't that it's either or, have the baby and your life is ruined, or don't have the baby and you'll have bliss. That's not the reality of it at all. But if they've got no support around them, then that can be made to seem that way. Anyway, so we have a culture that celebrates death in the form of human abortion as a solution to the problem. Oh, you have a problem? We can fix it. We're just going to use a little bit of death. Then on the back of that came euthanasia. Are you old? Are you in pain? Are you a bit sad and lonely? Well, we can fix that. We can fix all of your problems. We're just going to add a little bit of death to this. Most recently, we've seen this with the transgender issues. And yes, having trans surgery doesn't kill the individual having the surgery, but that's the end of their bloodline, right? You might be transgender, but I guarantee you your parents weren't, right? Or at least they weren't post-operative, okay? So that still kills your bloodline. And yet all of these things are being sold to us as progress. These are celebrated. These are the solutions. This is us moving forward as a civilization. I put it to you that we're watching a culture that loves death. And surprise, surprise, it's coincided exactly with the rejection of God. Those that hate me, wisdom, those that hate wisdom love death. And the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So those who don't have the fear of the Lord end up loving death. And I believe we've actually entered a death cult. We've actually entered a death culture. And I would buttress that as a final point. Yeah. As a final point, by this need that some people have, particularly very wealthy people, to depopulate the planet. This view of humanity as a virus, that by our sheer quantity, we are automatically evil. We've become evil because we are just too numerous. And I want to contrast that worldview with the worldview that I get from the book of Genesis. So in the book of Genesis, God creates, he puts Adam and Eve on earth, and he says it's good. And he says to Adam and Eve, he says, go fill the earth and subdue it, right? So make babies, increase the number of humans, and subdue the earth. Now, to subdue something means to tame it, to make it less wild, to make it more comfortable, better for your habitation. What God is not saying is, I've made this beautiful creation. Don't you dare touch it. You leave it alone. But what do the Greens say? The Greens, as a political movement, a political party, by the way, that loves death. They're all about death in all of its various forms that I just mentioned there. They say, we can't allow humans into national parks. We can't allow you to access Earth. No, no, no. Nature is sacred and man spoils it. Man desecrates it just by walking through. If you so much as drive a four-wheel drive through 1 billion acres of national park, well, you've committed a crime at this point, right? And what this is a direct rejection of God's worldview, where he said, the earth is yours, fill it and subdue it. You can change it. You can make it more comfortable. Now, to balance that, we are also stewards of the earth, and we are called by God to leave an inheritance to our children's children. So we can't just go scorched earth, rape the resources and leave nothing to our posterity, right? That is not what God is saying. But he is saying you can make it better. You can make it better for your habitation. You can make it better for your descendants. You're allowed to touch it, and you're allowed to change it, and you're allowed to fill it. God is pro-human. This is the irony of the humanist movement. They've claimed the name human, but God is actually pro-human. He put us in charge and said, hey, this is yours. Use it, fill it, subdue it, enjoy it. It's the so-called humanists that are saying you're a problem, you're a plague, and death is the solution. And so when I talk about that collision that I talked about a moment ago, I'm talking about it at multiple different levels. I actually think the veneer is coming away for that spirit, that civilizational veneer that we've had over the spiritual world is actually being peeled back, and more people are becoming spiritual in all sorts of different forms. More and more people are becoming so much more aware of this ages-long, eons-long struggle between good and evil. And I think we are genuinely reaching another real collision point where people who believe in freedom, who overwhelmingly also, by the way, believe in God, not universally, but actually as a proportion of the population, a disproportionate number of freedom lovers also believe in God. And a disproportionate number of Greens and Marxists do not believe in God. And I don't think that's a coincidence.
I think I might have to get rid of my skull.
No, you don't have to get rid of anything. He's not preaching at you. He's giving his opinion.
But I understand it.
Yeah.
Worship, we got a comment here from Ron. Greens worship nature. Correct. They worship the creation rather than the creator. And it's such an important distinction. The creation's amazing. The creation should be celebrated, appreciated, yes, protected where it's appropriate. The creation is incredible, but worship the creator, not the thing that was made.
And Carly, just paint the skulls green, that'll be fine.
He just went and blew my mind.
Sorry about that. It's not a big deal, Carly. You're just caught in a civilizational struggle between the forces of good and evil, God and Satan. It's not a big deal. Just don't think about it tonight. Don't lie awake tonight. Don't think about it.
Just a bit dark.
You said you wanted to go dark, Tim. You had a dark question for me. Well, there's a dark answer for you.
That was ages ago.
I'm a bit slow sometimes. Takes me a little while to load, you know.
Well, I reckon we're just about due to wrap up. So if there's any other questions we can quickly bring up, is there?
No, I don't think there is. There's just a lot of Ethan.
Good work, Ethan. Thank you for helping the algorithm there, mate.
Yeah.
It's very useful.
They don't worship nature. They don't even understand the bush. They are the biggest enemy. They are 100%. 100%.
They are, but on paper, they will tell you that they're the ones protecting it. That's what they believe they're doing.
Yeah. And that's why I believe that they're all it's all a cult, because they believe in something that's not real.
Yeah, green religion is absolutely what it is.
Yeah.
Anti-human.
Yes. They want to kill us all.
I wish I could disagree.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Topher. We really appreciate you coming on. Everyone's, it's just been so amazing to have you on.
Guys, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff that you got to say for YouTube and everything. Again, thank you very much, Topher. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for blowing Carly's mind. I wouldn't have dared try because she's right next to me. And I wouldn't have succeeded even if I did.
Look,
guys,
you can steal the hair, but you can't steal 16 years of experience. It's
and my brain's still tiny, so bit bigger than a greens, but just. Topher, let us know where we can find your merch, mate. Show us your t-shirt, all your stuff. How do we
Good
support
people
you?
break bad laws. Hang on. What have I got? Which ones have I got here? You'll like some of these. So this is my answer to net zero. Net zero.
Net zero.
And net zero is fast becoming net zero with what Trump is doing and other things that are happening around the world. It's quite amazing. This is which one's this? Oh yeah, I've got this. So this is my personal. This is my favorite.
Love that.
That's
my favorite. Too much 1984, not enough 1776. It's an American reference. I originally had the date set as the year of the Eureka Stockade, but no Australians know what that is. And so that didn't sell very well. So I changed it to target the American audience, and that sells better. So look, I got a bunch of designs. I got my books, my DVD. Now the DVD's there for if you want it on the shelf, but you can watch it for free at battlegroundmelbourne.com. Okay, and for as long as I can, I will keep it online for free until I'm old and grey. For as long as I can do that. Books. Good People Break Bad Laws. This is about civil disobedience in the modern age.
Amazing book.
Thank you. I appreciate that. This is about the theology of civil disobedience. So if you're sitting there thinking, how can a Christian be advocating for breaking the law? What about Romans 13? What about 1 Peter chapter 2? What about Jesus and the tribute coin? I deal with all of that specifically in here. All right. So Good Christians Break Bad Laws deals with the theology of it. And you can find all of that at goodpeoplebreakbadlaws.com.
Yep.
Highly recommend.
And guys, look for Topher on YouTube or wherever you can find him. His videos are very informative. I find when there's a new bill coming through and I want to know what the actual results of that bill is going to look like, Topher's the guy. He's gonna give you a pretty good picture from his experience of what the reality of that actually is, despite what the parties think they're trying to do.
Yeah. But he cuts the spin.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, guys. Look, I appreciate it. I consider it a privilege that people actually want to have me on their podcasts and things like that. So tonight's been my pleasure. Go well. I wish you every success. I wish you huge amounts of growth. And I hope to be able to come on again in a year, and then again a year after that, and just let's go on a journey together, and let's kick some of these anti-human, globalist, Satan-worshipping assholes out of power and take our planet back.
Yes,
no biggie.
100%.
We'll see you before the Victorian state election, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. All right. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.